When a star as untouchable as Shawn Diddy Combs walks into a courtroom, the world stops scrolling. But the first crack doesn't come from a judge's gavel. It comes from the sudden silence of a missing voice. Victim 3, a woman prosecutors called their linchpin, disappeared just days before opening statements. That single void tipped the entire case on its axis, unleashing a snowball of questions about power, intimidation, and whether justice can outrun influence. Today, we're pulling back every curtain. Jury room panics, celebrity subpoenas, secret plea deals, and the videos the defense begged to bury. Each chapter adds new voltage, so stay sharp. By the end, you'll see why this trial might rewrite the playbook for every future Not For Me Too battle in the entertainment industry. The prosecution thought they had their narrative welded shut until the phone calls to Victim 3 started bouncing. No one can say exactly when she vanished. One day she was confirming travel, the next, her lawyer was shrugging on national TV. Rumors spiral from whispered threats to a covert relocation under an alias. Her testimony was supposed to anchor the timeline, connecting early 2000s studio parties to the 2010 freak-off era and the Miami raids of 2024. Without her, prosecutors face a puzzle with its corner piece missing. Defense attorneys smell blood, already rehearsing the phrase reasonable doubt, but a ghost witness leaves behind an echo, and that echo will shadow every question asked in court. But if one voice can disappear, imagine what 12 jurors might do under pressure. Jury selection should be the quiet part. Legal small talk, nods, polite excuses. Instead, one candidate begged the judge to let her go, citing sleepless nights and anonymous DMs that screamed, "Pick right or pay." Another admitted he feared losing his job if his verdict upset Twitter. The court sealed the panel's identities, yet tabloids still floated half-correct guesses within hours. This is the first celebrity trial of the TikTok livestream age. Every hallway whisper becomes a stitched clip. Every court transcript spawns theory threads before lunch. Can 12 strangers weigh evidence when memes rewrite the headlines faster than testimony finishes? The judge has already threatened contempt for anyone posting from the gallery. Still, the feed refreshes. And outside that feed, prosecutors say something darker is humming. Coached statements, paid defenders, and full-blown tampering. Phone taps don't lie. Federal agents monitoring jailhouse calls claim they overheard instructions that sounded a lot like damage control, code words, gifts, and rehearsed lines for public Instagram notes. Meanwhile, a leaked affidavit alleges one woman's supportive statement was literally drafted by Combs himself, then emailed for her signature. If prosecutors prove intimidation or bribery, the judge can tack on separate charges, ratchet bail to oblivion, or even yank defense privileges mid-trial. But proving intent is a razor-thin dance. One missed comma, and it becomes friendly advice. The stakes. Tampering could turn a maximum 25-year exposure into a life bid under federal racketeering rules. Yet the heart of the indictment isn't a phone call. It's a blueprint prosecutors say spanned 2 decades. Forget a single bad night. Authorities describe a machinery of control. Private jets to unlisted islands, NDAs on clipboards at the door, security guards doubling as enforcers. The paperwork frames it as organized coercion. Recruit, isolate, exploit, discard. Bad Boy Entertainment, the label that once minted platinum hits, appears in court filings as a potential front for funneling hush payments and travel logistics. Emails reference FO weekends, allegedly freak-off, where phones were surrendered and guest lists vetted for silence, not talent. Racketeering isn't about music royalties, it's about pattern, profit, and hierarchy. The feds argue that removing Combs doesn't topple a man, it dismantles a network. And who better to illustrate that pattern than the woman once branded its queen? Cassie walks in showing 7 months pregnant, hand resting where her testimony lives twice, in memory and in new life. Jurors can't unsee it. She's no Jane Doe. She uses her real name, shows the hallway surveillance footage from 2016 that fans dissected frame by frame. In it, Diddy shoves, she stumbles, security hesitates. The defense insists the clip is taken out of context, that lovers can fight ugly without it proving years of abuse. Prosecutors counter, context is exactly what Cassie supplies. Late-night calls begging drivers to circle blocks, text messages about punishment rooms, doctors on retainer. One maternal instinct to protect her unborn child might carry more weight than any forensic expert could. But while Cassie humanizes the timeline, Diddy's legal brain trust is running out of patience and bodies. Benjamin Braffman isn't cheap, but his resignation letter was 2 sentences citing irreconcilable strategy differences. Translation? He told Diddy to take the deal, 10 to 15 years with credit for time served, and Diddy said no. Insiders whisper about a second proposal. Surrender overseas assets, plead to 1 trafficking count, walk free in 15. Still no. Confidence? Maybe. But skipping a plea means rolling dice with mandatory minimum enhancements that could stack to 45 years plus. Federal prosecutors rarely bluff. Their 97% conviction rate hangs like a neon sign outside every conference room. So why refuse? Friends say pride. Feds say hubris. The jury will call it evidence. Evidence that includes a cast list Hollywood wishes would stay off the screen. A leaked civil filing listed Jay-Z, Beyoncé, Mary J. Blige, and LeBron James as possible witnesses to material events. Twitter exploded with conspiracies. Were they at the parties? Did they know? Most of those names vanished from the criminal docket, but subpoenas still loom like storm clouds over the Grammy table seating chart. Even if they never testify, the risk of voir dire, swearing to tell truths no PR rep can edit, has legal teams drafting motion after motion to quash. For Hollywood, the nightmare isn't a guilty verdict. It's the discovery process live streaming every VIP itinerary for the past 20 years. And none of it matters if the jury never sees the receipts. So the evidence war becomes existential. The defense calls the raids illegal fishing. The judge calls them precisely targeted. Servers, tablets, old Blackberries, mirrored in a morning. Inside, prosecutors found what tabloids label the souvenir tapes. Dozens of clips allegedly cataloging intoxicated guests and non-consensual acts. The defense says many show consenting adults and must be excluded for privacy. For now, most footage stays in, though blurred for the jury. Each frame can anchor a charge. Each charge can add years. If additional accusers surface mid-trial, as lawyers vet 400 other claims, the judge can allow limited pattern evidence, triggering mini-trials that double the schedule. Every delay keeps Diddy in a cell he swears he'll never die in. Outside, the courthouse steps are crowded again, this time with people who waited decades to speak. 37 lawsuits filed, 120 accusers on record, 400 consultations pending. Civil lawyers compare phone logs, scrapbooks, even flight manifests from decommissioned jets. Each new story overlaps a detail in another, weaving a tapestry prosecutors call the ecosystem. The music industry scrambles. Brands freeze partnerships, collaborators sanitize social feeds. Streaming services quietly adjust playlists. Labels hire crisis firms to map where else silence bought profit. Whatever the verdict, a bigger trial is already underway. The public one, where victims decide the statute of limitations on shame has expired. And that brings us to the edge of the gavel's first strike. A missing witness, a TikTok-hunted jury, tampering whispers, a rejected plea, celebrity subpoenas, tapes that may never disappear, and an army of new voices demanding to be heard. Stack those together, and you have a trial that's less about one mogul's fate and more about the architecture that let him rise unchecked. If the prosecution proves its case, it signals that influence cannot outspend accountability. If the defense pokes enough holes, it warns future accusers how fragile the justice system can feel. Either way, the music industry's myth of immunity is cracked. So ask yourself, how many empires crumble quietly the moment the first brave witness goes missing? Keep that question on repeat because the next headline may drop before the jury even files in tomorrow. Stay tuned, stay skeptical, and remember, the louder the truth gets, the harder it is to disappear.